I want everyone to try to use their memory to judge, and I think Gavin Dawson noticed a difference yesterday with Stephen Jones. Is Stephen being a lot nicer, and will Jerry be a lot nicer to GP contract talks publicly than he was with Micah Parsons? Now, eventually it started getting ugly with Micah. I thought the most below the belt comment last year was comparing the crowd reaction to Micah versus CeeDee Lamb, and he doubled down on it as well. That's when I was like, man, this thing is getting vicious. Have they learned a lesson from that? Stephen Jones yesterday talking to Cowboy reporters with contract updates on Brandon Aubrey and tagging George.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we just finished up Javonte. He'd been in talks with Aubrey for, even before the season started. So, that's been a journey. But we hadn't been able to get to, a point where we can all agree. So, hadn't gotten done, but we'd love to get him done. And then Pickens, of course, leaning toward the franchise tag. We'll finalize that here over the coming week or 10 days, and then we'll go from there.
And Bobby pointed out last night, he sounds a little bit more exhausted talking about Aubrey than he does Pickens. I wonder what the holdup there is versus just saying, all right, 6. 6 makes you the highest paid kicker. There you are, top of the market. And isn't Brandon Aubrey's agent the one who really got over and currently holds the title for biggest contract in the league, and Todd France, Dak's guy?
Yep, it's Todd France, and which I'm sure selectively aggressive. I'm sure that's part of the complication, right? There's that Todd France is going to make sure he can get everything he can for Brandon Aubrey, like he should. But man, it's the whole fact of just talking about we've been working on that one for a while. We're not. It's just both sides aren't comfortable yet with what it is, and so we haven't been able to come to an agreement. Not totally, didn't sound super pessimistic, but it was definitely sounded more fatigued than he did whenever he was talking about Pickens yesterday.
And I wonder if Jerry had to be talked into paying kickers by Parcells. He did not like it, and I guess it was the Vanderjagt, and then it blew up in Bill's face. He was gone immediately. So, I wonder if Jerry's just like paying a kicker is exhausting. Doing that whole thing it does feel like he seems more exhausted by the process there, because it's like I got to negotiate and have a back and forth with a kicker's agent. Like the kicker's agent should just say, yeah, okay, sure, this is what you're going to offer, and I'll take it. But it's the times have changed, and you've got a guy that has been elevated. I mean, Bobby's right. There's a lot of kickers that could do what Brandon Aubrey did. You can't name them, right? They're not like household names. Brandon Aubrey is an NFL household name, largely because he plays here, but also because he was the first one. So he's become a household name, and that in itself is going to cost.
If I'm Todd France, and the top of the market is 6.8 or whatever it is.
6.5 Bucker.
If it's 6.5.
6.4 Bucker.
I am not...
A Bible verse that says women stay in the kitchen from Harrison. Is that what it is?
I'm walking up there, and if I'm Todd France, I'm saying he needs $10 million a year. That's what I'm asking for. It doesn't mean that's what I'm settling for. That doesn't mean what. But yeah, I'm going to walk to the table, and I'm going to ask for something outrageous.
Right.
It's like, this is Brandon Aubrey. This is the league's only superstar kicker right now. You're paying him $10 million, and so I'm sure that's kind of where they're at. Is he probably sees opportunity to get his client paid at a very high level, and it can cause some difficulties in negotiations.
And the floor there for them, let's say they're going to ask for 10. Their floor is 7.5, 8. I
would guess their floor is probably 7. I think that's what he ultimately gets signed for.
Why isn't the floor 6.5? See, man,
you don't just try to beat it by $1.
Well, we used to just do this, barely top the current high. Yeah. And then David Mulligana came along and said, we're going to beat it by $3 or $4 million, but 6.4 will make you 6.5, maybe 6.8.
I think it's percentage of the cap, right? That's what they go by now.
Percentage of the cap is a big thing. Also, I think it's just they would look at him and say he's unique. He's not $100,000 better than Harrison Butker. He's way better than that. In fact, Chop, maybe he's $300,000 better. 6.7.
I am sitting here counting now these different salary websites, probably not 1,000% accurate, but guess the kicking ranks for salary that Brandon Aubrey is. He is the what highest paid kicker in the NFL?
I mean, it's got to be low considering. Let's say he was the 21st.
Lower.
28th.
37th. 8, I counted.
I'm sorry, there's how many teams?
I counted 36 names before getting to his $898,000 salary.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
A lot of names. Now maybe
Where's Pete Stoyanovich on the list?
I don't think Pete made it.
Wait, this can't be right. I'm gonna have to double check my math on this. But there's a lot. There's an absolute ton. I wish they had actually put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but I have to go ahead and count it myself. So that's Stephen Jones saying for a while they've tried to work things out with Aubrey. Let's get a little bit more on Pickens.
We want Pickens here. Think the world of him. Want him here, love him. And I think he wants to be here, so all that's a plus. We've had people play under the tag, and then we've made deals with people, that have a tag and can go either way. And so we'll just, continue to, really analyze the situation and see what's next.
Yeah, and Aubrey is mid-30 ranked. Wow. In terms of that salary. So there's Steven basically saying, yes, the franchise tag is probably coming.
Okay. I mean, I get it. You have to do this. It's a housekeeping tactic. You can't just say, oh, we're not going to tag you, and then all of a sudden he is open to the free agent market. Pickens understands that. They all understand that. But, at the same time, this is for me, it's very simple. Just get it done. It's a very get-it-done thing. I don't want this thing to drag into April and May.
Well, it's not that simple.
Well, for me, it is. For me, it's like, look, I don't care about your negotiating the 11th hour, saving $400,000 here or there.
Well, yeah, but
get it done.
But David Mulligeta has shown you're going to be apart by $3 to $4 million off the high of where the market even says you should be.
I totally get it. I totally understand.
So you're still just like pay the Mulligeta tax.
I'm not saying you pay the Mulligeta tax.
You're saying just get it done.
Last year, they were. It turns out they were about $7 million apart on Micah, something like that. 47.
What if they're asking for 40?
Yeah, what's that?
Or they're asking for 40.
What if they're asking for 40? Okay. Well, first of all, that is. I mean, then you decide to trade him, which is that's fine. You're making a decision. If you don't want to pay the 40.
But I'm asking you, what if they're asking for 40? Do you want to pay that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that he is a top 5 receiver? I think he's 5 or 6. Would I pay 40 is a lot? 40 is a lot. So at that point, then you make the decision to trade him. 40, but either way, you're making a decision.
40 is Jamar Jefferson, but it's going to drag out until you realize, I think, okay, they're not going to fold, they're not going to bend here. 40 is Jamar, Jefferson is 35, CD is 34, and DK is 33.
Yeah, the issue with CD,
he's going to end up taking like 34, so him and CD can be salary bros.
Yeah, because that's one of the issues. These teams or these players. When it's CD's room. He was here. He was the paid guy. You pay somebody else in that room more. Is that going to be?
Which CD has said he's fine with. I kind of believe him.
Yep, maybe.
He's like, if I have to told Dan Patrick, if I got to give up some money, now easier said than when you actually put pen to paper.
Right.
But I don't think there would be any acrimony between the two.
If I was his agent, if I was George Pickens' agent, I would say 40. And I'd be settling, just like Todd France would say 10, but I'd walk in there and I'd say 40. I'd say, you saw him on the field last year. You think there was anybody better than him on the football field last year as a receiver? Because the league doesn't talk about it like that. The league is telling you he's that good.
Bust the budget is the off-season slogan that we're focusing here on 105 through the Fan. Shan, RJ Choppy, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt in Indianapolis. Brought to you by Yorgi Pet Care Connectors. All right, Steven. They call you Cat Boy. It's an insulting term. Everyone thinks you're cheap and tight with the purse strings. You're not willing to pay market value or go over to what it takes to actually get the player signed. Stephen Jones on free agency this offseason.
It's looked different every year. Some years we do it different, a little different than others. And every year is different. A lot of that will depend on what's out there and the value that we think is there, and we'll make decisions based on that. But yeah, we certainly think we'll end up being involved in free agency.
Bobby, he also said we're going to need the money freed up from Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams with the potential extensions or restructures. Quote, we are going to need their room.
Yeah, that's going to be I would imagine that's restructure on Quinnen. That would be an extension or a reworking of the deal somehow with Kenny Clark. But that's they clearly want both of them here. Whenever you've heard some people go, oh, he could be a cap casualty, Kenny Clark, this is why it's never been the case. Is because they've got some flexibility they can get by letting him go, but they don't want to do that. They want him here. And so I'm sure they'll work this week on, that'll be one of their agenda items, is like, how can we work to get this done? How can we work to get this cleared up?
And Choppy, you were saying, well, dang it, now bust a budget is going to come during a time with a weaker free agent class. Shareen Williams, who we will see in Indianapolis, from Florio's website, listed their top free agents. I'll just run down in order.
Let's go.
Pickens, Daniel Jones, Linderbaum, Jags linebacker Devin Lloyd, Hendrickson, Kyle Pitts, who got tagged, Alec Pierce, Jalen Watson, Breece Hall, Malik Willis, Jamel Dean, Rashid Shaheed, Rasheed Walker, Kenneth Walker, Braden Smith, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Mike Evans, Kobe Bryant, Jawan Jennings, Romeo Dobbs.
It's it's going to be the odd year where you overpay on a class, because that's the one thing, when you have a free agent class that isn't great, these agents still want the same thing. They want the top linebacker in the free agent class is going to want to reset the market. The top edge is going to want to reset the market in that free agent class, whether they deserve it or not. And that's going to create a logjam. And it's also going to create a lot of teams overpaying. Even though they might not get the top market, they're going to overpay.
Yeah, and I would say that's another arguing point from Pickens' perspective probably is, look at this free agent class. If I was out there on the market, forget top receiver, I'm the top player. Nobody would be throwing their money around more than to me to get me signed.